Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Guest Life Podcast, episode 26. We're talking about design and construction with Zoran Tomasevic from Harbour Construction Management, as well as Vivant Luxury Living. Zoran's a Hamiltonian, a good friend of mine and business partner. His story is fantastic. I can't wait to kind of get you guys going with it. Again, Guest Life Podcast, episode 26. We want to thank everybody so much for tuning in today. It's been over a year now that we've been doing this. It's just been fantastic. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all the channels. If you can't find us, stay home. And today we have the great privilege of talking to Zoran. So how's it going?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Dan.
It's been a long time in the making now, and Zoran's hometown guy, Hamilton based. He's got a ton of stuff on the go. Can't believe he's here still because hard guy to get a hold of. If you know him, you understand. Zoran, let's start with Harbour Hills. Tell us a little bit about that. We're going to get a little bit into family life, time management, and then Vivant, which is kind of taken off. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, so Harbour Hills Construction Management, it's a construction management company and general contracting company that we started here in 2015. Started more in the residential side. To be honest with you, it was insurance work.
Yeah.
So when there were flood outs and whatnot, our crew would come in there and basically remove drywall and repair floors. So nothing overly glamorous, but we paid our dues. We put the time in, and slowly we started kind of growing, and eventually we got into the commercial world, and now we're dealing primarily with ICI sectors. So office fit outs, retail, restaurant work, just trying to do what we can for our clients. And it's been an awesome ride being here in the Hamilton scene. And seeing the revitalization has been awesome, and it's been awesome to be a part of for sure.
Yeah, we're doing a project right now downtown with Zoran that does not have a roof. Pretty extensive stuff right down in Gore Park. Yes. It's wild to see the transformation of some of these older buildings, especially downtown in the core. But kind of as you expand throughout Hamilton, there's a lot of work happening. Tell us about how why you would want to get involved in an old building with no roof, and what the kind of, what attracts you to that?
Yeah, obviously it has its challenges. If we are able, we've always felt that if we are able to achieve success on these projects of difficulty, then when, projects down the road come up that they're new builds, I feel like we'll be well enough versed with dealing with tough site conditions. Obviously with King Street, it's a row building in a congested area of downtown. Obviously it's an old building, decrepit, there's no roof and whatnot. So, we're facing our challenges, and we're kind of, there are areas that we're learning as we go, just like a building, just like a building that, is 150 years old, you're going to learn the more you take down, the more you're going to find out about the building. So, it's obviously been an experience and still an experience. We're looking to have a roof on the building by the end of the summer, which will be, a large feat for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, that's part of the fabric of being a contractor in Hamilton is like, you have to have the ability to work on existing buildings, to work in conditions that aren't ideal and favorable, and to be able to be flexible and adaptable when a site condition does come up. Right. So, we faced 100 challenges, 1,000 challenges on King Street and other projects alike, right? And that's just kind of, it goes with the territory. We're both familiar with lots of developers in the area that, use old buildings to their advantage, right? They take the old buildings, they're able to integrate contemporary ideas, contemporary concepts into the space, and it turns out fantastic. So, King Street is definitely going to be one of those projects that, when it's
exposed brick everywhere,
100% exposed brick, new curtain wall systems, new fixtures, et cetera, et cetera. So, it'll definitely be something that, that'll add to, the revitalization of Hamilton. And, we're excited to hopefully finish it up by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's amazing. Ish. So are we. And I think, a lot of people wonder when it comes to contracting and kind of getting involved, how you got started. So I always remember you telling me a story about, Zoran started at Elliston, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And he's like, there's nothing like managing a project where you have to do a concrete pour on a 50-story building.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. No, so obviously went to Mohawk's College's architectural technology program, and had a co-op actually with Ellis Don.
How long is that program?
The program 3.5 years with
Oh, wow.
co-op, fantastic program, and definitely the co-op aspect was huge. I feel that and I feel like I'm not alone with this thought, but what I learned in a year and a half on the sites versus 3 years of technical education, obviously the on-site learning was extremely beneficial,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I had the ability to work with a few companies. With Ellis Don, I worked for my last 8 months of co-op. I was at the AGO in downtown Hamilton,
Oh, wow.
and really they right away they kind of put me into the shit right away. I mean, I did not know what a superintendent was at the time, and my first day I was the night superintendent of the AGO shift. AGO was a 24-hour job, so it was like there was never a break in the work. And literally, they said, okay, you're going to be supervising the crew that's building the barnacle staircase, and which is like the big corkscrew staircase in the middle of the AGO. And I was off and running. I guess I had to kind of learn by intuition, and when I did get shifted to the day shift, trying to see what the other superintendents were doing, how they were functioning, and whatnot, to kind of understand the role and to be a better supervisor. And that obviously grew over 10 years with Ellis Don. Obviously had exposure to probably 15 different projects. Probably in constructability, I was probably around $2 or $3 billion in construction work. We worked on Union Station,
Wow.
Sarnia Regional or Sudbury Regional Hospital.
And this is all with your time with Ellis Don?
All with my time with Ellis Don. So
Wow.
definitely was a great opportunity to see construction from both the micro scale, where you're assigned to a specific task, being the superintendent of concrete or being the superintendent of coordinating with the curtain wall systems and whatnot. But also, when you got a chance to kind of step back, you could look at construction from a macro standpoint, right? Seeing kind of what's been built over the last 12 months, and understanding like how your role in it has contributed to that, right? So, I mean, Ellis Don was a fantastic company, and was definitely one of the reasons that I had the confidence to kind of break out on my own when I did in 2015.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. It's wild when you see the finished product and then when you be a part of it. I remember when I was just got my ticket, I did some work at Mohawk College actually on the expansion there for the new police foundation. And then we also did Maple Leaf Foods, which is now like this monstrosity building. We were just doing the underground plumbing. But you see it all finished and everyone's like, oh, that's great. Like it's
Right.
done. Or,
Yeah.
oh, they put that new tower up, and,
Right.
and the man hours and the late nights and the people that are involved in getting some of those projects done. And pretty much like, the teamwork, but also the management. I think, I love the name. Where did you get Harbour Hills from when you kind of decided to get out on your own?
So we wanted to, obviously born and raised Hamilton, always had obviously a special place for it, and was really, one of the people that believed that Hamilton was going to turn around, like, in 2009, 2010, when, real estate was still bleak at that point. And so when we got to the drawing board with regard to names, we wanted something that was relatable to our city. So, we were throwing around a couple ideas and whatnot, and then I was thinking about, okay, what are some features that Hamilton has? So, obviously West Harbour and whatnot. So I was like, okay, trying to roll that in, and then I was thinking of another unique feature, which like the mountain.
Yeah.
So Harbour Mountain, and then Harbour Hills kind of rolled off the tongue, and it kind of sounded, sounded like a decent name. And after that was done, I was like, I felt like, this was it. Once it was out there, I'm
Yeah.
like, this is it. So definitely proud of the name, definitely proud of the city. And it's definitely kind of part of who we are.
Yeah, I've known Zoran 6 years now. I didn't know that, so that is awesome.
Yeah.
And as you were describing it, I'm like, oh, what an idiot. I should have known. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think a name and a brand has so much to do with kind of how you're perceived in the city, as well as professionalism, and how your brand kind of sticks out from the rest, instead of it's just one or the other. whether it's a street name for some or milestones for others in terms of what a city stands for. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, for sure.
How have in terms of establishing your business and kind of building that up, what kind of took you to that next level of now doing jobs like King Street? Is it just repetition, or is it growth, or is it just that you have like an absolute desire for risk?
A little bit of everything there. Realistically, I mean, risk with construction is just, it's part of the recipe, right? So, obviously, I've always had my sights set on bigger things. When we were doing, 1,000 square foot basement, I wasn't sitting there and be like, yes, I've reached the pinnacle, right? There's always that next step, and
Yeah.
even where I am now, I mean, we're still walking before we can run, right? So, yeah, it's just that I've always had my sights set on bigger things. I think, to be honest with you, working in downtown Toronto for like 10 years and seeing the scale of development and the scale of impact that construction and real estate has had in Toronto, it kind of made me want to be a part of that, right? In whatever small degree I can be. But yeah, just being able to see, how over the last 10 years, how Toronto's changed, over the last 10 years, how Hamilton has changed, through construction, through real estate, through the economy obviously increasing and becoming much more stable in our local downtown. So yeah, obviously you had to work your way up to that. I mean, I didn't jump in. I didn't jump into the deep end with no paddle there. I tried to take the natural progressions of construction. So, we started off residential, then we started doing larger scale renovations, then we got into commercial and so forth and so forth. So, I mean, definitely, we wanted to make sure that when we were ready to jump into a big project, that we had the systems in place. I mean, you're always going to learn, you're always going to make mistakes. That's just goes with the gig. But we want to have the ability to have solutions for those mistakes. And yeah, it's still a learning process. We make mistakes all the time. It's just that the ability to have a solution for that mistake, to have a plan B, and how to mitigate as much risk or delays as possible.
Yeah. Well, and that comes down to you can plan, but you can't plan for everything. And I find you don't want to take the accountant's approach to business, which is you would never do anything.
Yeah,
You're right. You can't be too calculated because
absolutely.
you got to be dialed in. You got to understand, but don't go to an accountant for business advice. If you're an accountant listening, I don't care. Come talk to me. We'll start a business together. But that's where I find it's like, that risk factor and that kind of getting after it and that taking it to the next level, which is where I want to transition this conversation to with Vivant Luxury Living. Congratulations. I know a little bit more behind the camera here, but tell us about that. What spiked that interest? What is it? How'd you come up with that name?
Yeah. So, Vivant, it's a boutique development in Fawn Hill, small kind of 7 townhouse development. It's kind of our first delve into the residential development world, and it's something that honestly, I've been wanting to do for a long time. I mean, being a developer has something that I started dreaming of when I was in my 20s, and have been trying to kind of get to that level there. So it was an opportunity that came up. A good friend of mine, Abdullah Madge, a realtor here in Hamilton, a great realtor, ended up finding this piece of property in the Niagara area. This was in 2019, and I'd seen the growth obviously in Hamilton at that point and the surrounding areas. The GTA obviously was extremely strong and almost unaffordable for someone of my size. And the Niagara region was something that was just appealing to me. And, I thought that it had a good mixture of urban features. It had a good mixture of rural features, Niagara on the Lake, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, et cetera, et cetera. So I felt like there was a market out there. So we were looking in little towns, in the Niagara region: Thorold, Welland, Fawn Hill, Pelham, and we found this unique property in a newly developed area, about just over half an acre, that we decided, what, let's see if we can develop here. And I went into it, obviously. I went into it a little bit premature in regards to the planning side of it. I mean, I didn't
No way.
Yeah, didn't expect as many challenges and whatnot. But I mean, I also didn't expect the growth and the success that would come from it as well, to be honest. So, we tried to go baby steps in it. We tried to hire the proper professionals, planners, an architect, engineers, et cetera, to kind of advise on it. But yeah, we went into it in 2019, and the thought process was, okay, we're gonna get it built in 2020. It's gonna be great, easy peasy. Obviously, with COVID and everything like that, lots of things have changed. There's been a learning curve for sure. I mean, dealing with Terion itself has been obviously a learning curve that
And what's Terion, just for people that might not know?
so Terion is like a third party company that basically oversees the completion of residential homes that are for resale or for sale. So basically, what they do is they assure that us as the builders are held up to a certain level of performance over every year. So, for example, for the first year, it's basically a bumper to bumper warranty. And here, Terion is the one that regulates us to making sure that we're coming back to repair any issues that the property is happening. And then up to 7 years, every year, there's something that is included on the warranty there. So, yeah, they kind of oversee basically the product and the warranty period for the end users.
Wow.
Yeah. So, getting our Terion license was definitely, um, there was challenges, with it for sure. But I mean, overall, I think we appreciated those challenges. We think that, to be a developer, there should be some red tape. There should be some difficulties, and the process itself should be rather involved. I mean, everyone can't be a developer, even if you have the funds to buy the land, you have to have experience, you have to have the ability to present that, you're capable to do the project. So obviously going through the Terion process and getting our license, I mean, it was almost like an affirmation of, hey, yes, we can do this. We're at that stage where we can at least get our license and we can move forward. So, I mean, that was definitely a positive experience overall, for sure. And then, yeah, and we were kind of not flying by the seat of our pants, but kind of trying to play the market right with COVID. I mean, we were concerned at first that it was going to have a negative effect. People were going to be scared to leave their houses. Too much uncertainty in the market might drop prices down. But we ended up finding that, creating a good product, a good design, and having a reputation that you can deliver is what the people want, is what the people need. So obviously,
Yeah, and we'll have it, like, they're stunning units from what we've seen and all the renderings and everything. We'll have everything up online. You guys can't get them because they're all sold out, but
yeah.
but at least you'll be able to see what he's building, because I think he's a very modest guy, but it's fantastic. Like, the design speaks for itself. I'm in love with them. I remember the first time I saw them. When you think of townhouses, it's not what you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we work in relation there with close relation there with SMPL, a local Hamilton
Yeah,
architectural design firm. Great firm. I mean, Joel Tanner, the principal there, was instrumental in putting this together for us. But when we were looking at the design of the project, we wanted to take into consideration the local market and make sure that we were designing something that kind of fit within the fabric of the Niagara region. I know ultimately in 2020, the idea was we were going to do these ultra modern, flat roof, really sleek looking townhomes. And then we started doing some case studies in the area and seeing that wasn't actually the most attractable kind of purchase or whatnot for the residents down there. So we started thinking not outside the box, but what would mesh with the fabric of the Niagara region a little bit better. And then we started kind of coming up with, like, these would be called almost like Scandinavian farmhouses, right? So
yeah,
there's contemporary featers to it. There's
quaint.
traditional. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and we started putting together, we went, there was some back and forth for sure. There was probably about 2 months of design development, just trying to get it right. And then finally, when it was done, it was just like, yes, this is it. And I mean, the feedback has been, fantastic. People are excited about it. I mean, I don't think we initially foresaw that the demand for something like this would be as strong as it was. But I mean, we sold out in 3 days and had a waiting list and have a waiting list. And yeah, so it's been definitely a blessing for sure.
Yeah, well, and congratulations, and it's part of entrepreneurship, right? Is taking those risks, but educated, bringing the right people in, knowing how much information to take in, and when to pull the trigger. And I think that's a unique skill to have. I know myself and a lot of different people that we talk to and have brought on the show. It's you know luck is right time and opportunity and skill set, right, and preparation. So I think it's fantastic. Like I said, I boast about him because he's a good friend of mine, but also they speak for themselves in terms of like how they kind of get the job done. Um, let's track back. So many people always ask us. You've got Vivant luxury living, which obviously takes up some time, maybe just a little bit here and there. Harbour Hills construction management, and then new father of two with a beautiful wife at home. Tell us a little bit about how you manage your time. We talked about it a little bit before. You tried an app recently that's kind of helping you out. How is, when you talk about construction management tied into time management, tied into being a great father and a good buddy?
Yeah, you know what? It's honestly something that is still a work in progress. It has its challenges. Obviously, it has its rewards for sure. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, being a good father to my kids is the most important thing. Overall, over being a contractor, developer, et cetera, et cetera. Being there for my kids is obviously the most important thing. Obviously, my wife has been huge with that. Christina, she's, she understood what she, got into when we got married. She understood that I had aspirations to do, to do some things that I want to do with regards to entrepreneurship and my own company and whatnot. So she knew there'd be challenges when it came time, to having kids and whatnot. But I mean, overall, just trying to prioritize yourself and what's important to you has been kind of the way I've been able to be successful in it, right? I've always had, I feel, since I had kids for sure, that my priorities are relatively straight. I mean, even for example, I know last week we were supposed to have this podcast, but something family related came up. I wasn't happy to call you and let you know that I can't, it can't happen. But I mean, my priority was to the family, right? So, I mean, I try to, for me, the big thing is trying to turn off, the phone when I get home as best as possible. I mean, construction, even when you're not working 24/7, it's still an emergency can happen at any time, right?
Always.
So, I mean, the last thing that, an owner or a client or anybody wants to see is that, they can't get a hold of the contractor if there is an emergency. So, that's always in the back of my mind, but definitely prioritizing family time for me is kind of item number one for me. So, and I look up to, guys like yourself who have that, work-life balance and who preach it and who practice it. Right. So, just learning from guys like yourself and others in how can I, complement my work life and my family life and still kind of get, where I want to be with everything. So yeah, it's a challenge though for myself personally, and that, just got to try to figure out.
Yeah. Well, on the last episode, we had Craig in here, and talking about kind of just that structure of like taking care of yourself first, and you can take care of others so much. And I think it's as a business owner that has big aspirations, sometimes not just your family, but your friends can pull you down, or there's your staff can pull you down if they see you doing different things. And it's a hard road, but also it can be very, I find anyways, once you kind of open up about it and just be like, hey, like I think, that's not the first time I've heard someone say that they had the conversation with their wife about these big goals and aspirations. So
Right.
yeah, it's not a surprise.
Right.
It doesn't make it easy.
No.
But but at the same time, right, it's hey, we talked about this, and my path hasn't changed. I still want to be there and want to take it to the next level, because as an entrepreneur, a lot of people, what I find and see in some of the conversation I have with people that maybe I haven't explained myself well enough to, is they just think it's all about work.
Right.
But an entrepreneurial is someone, in my opinion, that is a constant, forever learner. You're always growing, you're always learning, you're always developing. Yes, business is priority because we're here more most of the times than we are at home with the family. But we're also continued learners on health, fitness, friendships, lifestyle, relationships, parenting. You look up to me in that sense, but I don't have kids or a wife, so it's a little bit different. And those areas might have a little bit more spare time to come to work. But I think it's just, it speaks volumes when, someone like yourself with everything you have going on really wants to dive into those things and yeah, continue to learn, continue to grow. Because it isn't just work focused. Priorities change, but focus doesn't change.
Right.
I think anyways. And if the focus is to learn and grow, then you're always going to be doing that. Sometimes it's going to be in different areas. but regardless of the situation, I think it's a great thing to be a forever learner, right?
Right.
You're
No,
never
it's
going to
great.
have too much knowledge.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Great philosophy.
What someone getting into it, whether they want to be a contractor, like, you know, you talk about the time you spent with Ellis Don. I know the contracting industry, just like, you know, we talk about barrier to entries with getting into developers or to be a developer. You know, I said the same thing when I wrote my plumbing ticket. I was like, wow, that was fucking hard.
Mhm.
But then I was like, well, that's probably a good thing, because you don't want a bunch of licensed plumbers running around that don't know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And that still happens too. But when it comes to barrier of entry, like, what do you think as a contractor? What advice would you give to, you know, either future you back then, or someone that's getting into it now that wants to kind of take their business to the next level?
So I think about this a lot because you know I do have, you know, some people that do reach out to me with questions, younger contractors, and whatnot, that do ask. So I mean, even with my own employees, you know, one of the things I say is ask the question. If you don't know why you're doing something, ask the question. Try to understand, you know, what I mean, why you're doing what you're doing and why it's important. You know, I think that whether you're looking to be, you know, in a niche part of the industry or subcon, like, for example, plumbing, electrical, etc., or a general aspect, the more you understand about the entire picture of construction, the easier it is to kind of be able to adapt and understand how to deliver, how to perform. I think that people sometimes are just so focused on what they have to do that they miss the bigger picture of the construction project as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
right? So understanding why someone's doing something the way they're doing it, understanding how it affects you, whether it helps you and it creates your job more efficiently, or if it's more negatively and it causes more delays. So I think it's important to kind of try to do your best sometimes to pull yourself from the micro kind of, you know, the micro job that you're doing, and pull yourself back and look at the bigger picture, right? I think, you know, that's definitely something that I learned a little bit later in my construction experience with Ellis Don. I mean, I was so focused with what I was doing and trying to be the absolute best at what I was doing. When I had the chance to kind of pull back and see what else everyone else was doing and why they were doing it, it kind of, you know, gave me a broader look of construction as a whole, and it allowed my thoughts of construction to kind of expand, right? So I was able to look at the bigger picture, and I think that's an important part of entrepreneurship. When you're too stuck on the micro, you know, a bad day or a good day, you know, can throw you off, or can provide a lot of confidence. For myself, it's like I never let myself get too high and get too low, right? And looking at everything, you know, via the macro is a big way like that. You know, I think also behind also just the ask questions is listen. Don't just ask the question, listen. I mean, you know, construction industry in nature is tough. I mean, as you know, right?
Oh yeah.
There's conflict. There's conflict even when everyone's intentions are good, right? And that's just the way the industry is. So having the ability to see some of that behind the scenes, like seeing how the sausage is made, is important and kind of helps prepare you when you do go out on your own, right? So, you know, I had that opportunity with Ellis Don when there was, you know, when we were behind on projects and when the owners were looking to, you know, fire us and stuff like that. You know, I saw those hard conversations, and that's important. That's important. You know, you have to develop that thicker skin, and that's part of construction. That's part of, you know, many businesses when you do go out there on your own. So that's, you know, would be kind of what I would advise, you know, people is learn, listen, ask questions, and never feel what you're doing has no impact on the job. I mean, I've got guys that are cleaning the job site that are extremely important, because that one day potentially job site doesn't get cleaned up, a brick falls on someone's head from a floor above because it didn't get picked up, and all of a sudden there's a massive problem on the job site. So everyone has a part to play. Doesn't mean that you're stuck in it for the rest of your life, obviously, but, you know, do your job, ask, listen, and if you have aspirations, work hard to get to the next step.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice. We preach a lot of times, slow down to speed up. You know, slow down, open your eyes, look around, and the listening piece. I mean, this podcast has helped me personally so much. Listen, I'm a talker, right? That's why I have a podcast. But that being said, like, you know, becoming a good listener and not just waiting to answer, right? Waiting to speak, and actually listening to it. And I got some really great advice recently from a podcast, which was, you know, be the last person to speak in the room. right? Let everybody feel heard, especially as a leader and a manager. Is, let everybody else get their opinion out. It might be better than yours, and yours might not be as relevant,
Yeah,
or they might say it. And as a manager, you want them to feel like encouraged and entitled, and get them to that next step of confidence, right? So
for sure.
eventually, as a manager, you can free up your time and move on to other things. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%.
So at the end of the day, we're here, Zoran. What inspires you? We're coming to the end of this podcast. What inspires you to kind of take it to the next level when it comes to design, when it comes to, creating that quality product, whether it's with Harbour Hills or Vivant Luxury Living? What is the differentiator between you and kind of the herd?
Yeah, that's a great question. Which we try to focus on. So for us, I mean, I say this to our clients, it's not just about the destination,
Yeah.
right? It's when Harbor Hills is on a project, it's not just about delivering a project that looks great and that functions and whatnot. It's about the journey as well. And I think a lot of people that have had contractors, whether commercial or residential, look at the product at the end of the day and are happy with it, but are really unsatisfied with how it got to that. Whether it's miscommunication, lack of communication, um, lack of production. I mean, the excuses are endless, right? For us, what we try to do and what we've tried to implement is transparency amongst clients and stakeholders to us on the management side. We have softwares that, create transparency to work schedules, progress, contacts, what's happening this week, bi-weekly meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, it's about creating the experience, right, that gets you to that end finished product. We deliver on the end product. A lot of contracts can deliver on the end product. It's just that in between that takes the most time, that leave people either with a sour taste in their mouth or happy with the process. So for us, it's just about continuing to try to sharpen our craft, learning from our mistakes and listening to the feedback of our clients, right? And obviously it didn't happen overnight. We learned, over the years and over the projects, what information was too much information, what information was not enough information. So, I feel like, we're in a good spot now where, most of our clients feel like they understand, they see the picture of the project, they see the budget, they see where the numbers and the costs are going. I think, what we've done for all of our project, which is not common, is we basically show all the numbers as an open book. We show them, yes, there is profit. Yes, we are a for-profit company.
No
yes,
way.
is there
Come
overhead,
on.
right? It's not a lump sum. So, educating people on, the construction, not only of a project, but of a budget and how their dollars are actually being used for a project helps educate them and understand kind of, what they're getting, and it kind of sets expectations. So, just being transparent with people and delivering. I mean, we're about delivering. We're about like, don't tell me, show me, right? So,
Yeah, I love that.
that's what we're about. I mean, there's a lot of great contractors. There's definitely we're not the one in Hamilton, the one and only, but we definitely want to be in high regard with other architects. And I think some of our partnerships with Tom McNally, DPAI, MSA, some of the cream of the crop of the architects, we're being put on these pre-qualified lists with other contractors like Skill Tice, Ira McDonald, and stuff like that. To me, that's a big deal. To me, when you're on a pre-qualified list, I mean, it says, it tells you that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it's just performing, right? It's not only about the destination, it's about the journey and just making sure you get the job done right.
I love that. Well, and it breeds repeat customers. Well, I mean, again, I'm very fortunate to able to talk to this guy all the time. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Zoran, thank you so much for coming out. We always ask this question, guys: why not me? Why not now? I've had the pleasure of coming up through the industry with Zoran. We both started our businesses in 2015. I think we were at every Chamber of Commerce event together. Seeing each other from across the room. But that's what it takes, guys. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long amount of time. You think 10 years of Ellis Don, he's gone to school, and now, he's starting to roll with the success and the growth of his business, as well as the growth of his family, which is, we want to congratulate him on. So why not me? Why not now? Zoran, thank you so much for being on the show.
Dan, thanks for having me.
Zoran's Instagram, all his handles will be all over our page. at Harbour Hills Construction. The Vivant Luxury Living. If you want to check out those towns, you'll be excited. I'm sure he's going to have another project soon, sooner than later. So, Zoran, thank you. And till next time.
Thanks, Danny.
All right.